And to go in depth on this story, Professor Yang Jun-sok and our BOK correspondent Hwang Ji-hye are joining us here in the studio. Welcome to you both.
Happy to be here.
I'm going to throw the first question to you, Professor. What did you think of the timing and the degree of this latest cut?
Okay, the timing was a bit of a surprise. I think most analysts did not expect the cut to take place at this meeting. Now, as to the effectiveness, we've had some rate cuts in the past. I expect the effect to be roughly the same. But hopefully, maybe this will have a bit of an extra kick because, first of all, the announcement was a surprise. And secondly, this is the lowest rate that Korea has ever been to. So maybe there's going to be a psychological effect. But as far as the pure economic effects are concerned, I think this is just another 0.25 rate cut. It has been not as effective as we wanted, but it seemed to have some positive effects. So I think we could look forward to about the same amount of help.
And actually, the two previous rate cuts, there has been criticism about the two rate cuts that it didn't really impact on boosting consumption or investment, as sluggish demand is mainly stemming from the structural problems within the country. So how much can a rate cut really accomplish, Professor? Okay,
well, I think the monetary policy has lost a lot of its kick because Korea has such a high household debt. And, well, if you don't have a lot of consumption, then companies are reluctant to invest even with low interest rate. So I think that's why the kick from the monetary policy hasn't been as effective as we saw maybe 3-4 years ago. So in that sense, as I mentioned, I'm not expecting miracles from this rate cut, but hopefully it'll have about as much positive effect as the last few rates did because that did have some effect on the real estate market. And while it may not have helped as much as everybody expected, it seems to be helping some.
So speaking of household debt, with the lower interest rates, critics say that it'll encourage people to borrow even more. But then on the other hand, some people say lower rates means people who have borrowed money can pay back their loans in a more easy fashion. What's your take on the future outlook of that?
Okay, well, I'm not expecting too much help on reducing the interest rate debt because, well, you need to refinance to really get help from that. And because people have made their loans already at the past interest rate, I don't think it's going to be of help for the very short run. Actually, though, it might help for the government to borrow money because now they'll be borrowing money at a lower interest rate. So if the government do decide to go into further deficit financing, this will probably help in that front.
And this is certainly sort of joining the global trend, I would say. 18 countries, was it, so far this year, have cut or conducted some kind of quantitative easing. So is this engaging in some sort of currency war? What's the pulse that you got from the press briefing today?
Well, the BOK governor refused to say that the central bank is now in the so-called currency war, adding that it's not trimming the key rate to counteract the global monetary spree, but it's acting to tackle the sluggish domestic demand. But local exporters, of course, are welcoming the surprise move, saying that it will raise the country's price competitiveness in the global market.
And we saw the Korean won hit a 19-month low yesterday. Why was that? And does the U.S. Fed hike that's anticipated to be coming up have any effect?
Yeah, actually, the changes in exchange rate concern me a bit more than the current rate cut because it's been moving at around 10 won per day on some days. So that's really a large amount of change in a very short period of time. Partially, well, the newspapers say that it's because U.S. has announced or is expecting a rate cut faster than it expected. They were originally expecting interest rate increase in the United States to be in September. Now, some are speculating that it's going to be in June. But so far, at least, Janet Yellen, the head of Fed, has been saying that they're going to delay the rate increase as much as possible. So unless the market seems to be saying that Yellen is lying, I don't think that should be too much of a worry. So I'm concerned about what exactly is making the rates change so quickly.
Janet Yellen will be communicating with the market closely enough, but I think with this possibility of a rate hike by the Fed down the road in the coming months, there are concerns of a potential capital outflow, massive capital outflow out of South Korea. What's your take?
Okay, well, if you had asked me this question, say, last summer, I would have been very worried. Right now, I'm not as worried because, well, we had these rates cuts already twice last year, and what we saw was that there really wasn't that much of a capital outflow. And while the United States is thinking about interest rate increase, all the other countries have either lowered their interest rate or they're engaged in quantitative easing. So all the other countries are going to have the same problem if there's going to be a problem at all. So Korea is not acting alone.
And just to add to that, in last month's monthly monetary policy meeting minutes, one of the policymakers said that Korea is now less affected by the Fed's rate hike. But the central banker actually said today that it's hard to draw a conclusion, of course, on that issue, adding that it will keep a close eye on the Federal Reserve and, of course, the global capital outflows.
Yeah, it's important to remember, I think we're still in a very uncharted ground. This has been the biggest global recession since the 1930s Great Depression, and this has been a lot of countries, a lot of advanced countries are going through the liquidity trap. So this really is an unexplored ground, and we're sort of feeling our way in the dark.
So what is your outlook moving forward with this continued expansionary policy by the BOK?
Okay, well, I think because of the large household debt, because of the global recession, I'm sorry to say that the kick from this interest rate cut will not be as much as people hope. I hope I'm wrong, but given the experience of the last two rate cuts, I think that we can only reasonably expect a very moderate effect. What I wish would have happened was, even though the Bank of Korea may not like this because it may encroach on their independence, I was hoping that the government and the Bank of Korea perhaps got together and created a more comprehensive plan, or at least announced all their plans together, so that it seems like the government has their act together and they're really behind the expansionary policy.
All right, all right. Now, let's leave it there for now. Thank you so much, Ji-hye and Professor Yang, for coming in today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.